Live. I am so sorry I'm a few minutes late. I'm getting no help right now on setting up StreamYard. I was on StreamYard, but nobody's helping me because the thing keeps saying record instead of going live. Like it shows me that I can go live and yet I can't. It's weird. Anyway, with that being said, great to be here, everyone. This won't be a long live today, but I've got to discuss once again this EMBREE Pavarotti, right? This huge YouTuber. I mean, the guy's built himself up over 36,000 subscribers or something. And normally I would fully support somebody that's got a big channel on the Idaho 4, no less, right? This guy does hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos on the Idaho 4. And, I wish more of his supporters would ask themselves, first of all, why is this guy doing 2 videos on the Idaho 4 every single day, it seems? And more importantly, not only is he doing all these videos, putting out all this content, but how many of you ask yourself, as I said in my last video, why isn't this guy doing interviews? He doesn't do any interviews, folks. Are you kidding me? Right? It's ridiculous, in my opinion. This guy tells you to be open-minded. He keeps reminding you, almost scolding you, be open-minded. And yet he's not open-minded because he apparently doesn't have the balls either, or the courage to actually do interviews with people that are really digging in on the truth on the Idaho 4. And if you guys and gals watch my videos, particularly the last several months, and it took me a while to get here, but you know that I've concluded there was no tragedy, unlike EMBREE tells you, Pavarotti, right? Pavarotti, he keeps using the word atrocity, right? He tells you literally probably thousands of times now, in every single video he does for the longest time, almost every single video it seems, he tells you that an atrocity took place, right? So he's just following CIA, FBI narrative, isn't he? Because they're the ones that fed us from the get-go with local law enforcement that the students were stabbed to death, right? And eventually we're supposed to believe their faces were mutilated with so many stab wounds. And if you just listen to EMBREE and you don't listen to anybody else, then you would probably be conned by a EMBREE, in my opinion, to think that the Aryan family, the Aryan Knights, somehow they were able to take out this hit, right? And get out clean. They leave Dylan Morrison and Bethany Funk untouched. Does any of that make really any sense, my friends, when you think about it? I mean, do you wonder why I sound exasperated? And yet this guy has got over 30,000 subscribers telling you this narrative, my friends. Again, this guy is seemingly trying to convince you that the Aryan family, the Aryan Knights, mutilated all 4 victims, Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xander Canoodle, and Ethan Chapman, right? And then Pavarotti, EMBREE, apparently he wants you to believe everything that Steve G is saying. Because apparently EMBREE believes everything Steve G is saying. Even, you know what Pavarotti said, my friends? This guy, he's a hoot, man. I can't wait. Hopefully one day I'll have a cold beer with Pavarotti, EMBREE. I'll pick his brain. I might even tell him in front of his face, EMBREE, dude, I know you're a misinformation, disinformation agent. But since I'm on YouTube right now as I'm saying this, that's my opinion, my friends. I think we got to ask the hard questions. Or let me put it this way. Let me ask a question, and to all of you supporters of Pavarotti, could he be a misinformation, disinformation agent? And why do I ask that? Because again, as I would tell him in front of his face, why do you keep trying to convince your audience that an atrocity took place? Why aren't you discussing, here's the red flags, my friends, and this is what I would ask EMBREE in an interview. This is why I want to interview him in part. I would say, ask him some hard questions like, EMBREE, Pav, why haven't you talked about showing that it's a staged crime scene? Why haven't you told your audience what ESTEY'S Crime Maze has been showing people for over a year. There were no body bags. There's been no verified evidence of any of the students being killed with body bags or gurneys. There's been no leaked I can't even talk, my friend. Sorry. I get so excited when I discuss this Pavarotti. I would also say, Pav, why hasn't there been, you haven't told your audiences the truth that there's been no leaked, verified, or let's put it this way, there's been no leaked, authenticated, raw crime scene footage of the crime scene or the victims. Are you kidding me? And then I would say to Pav in front of his audience, you really believe an atrocity took place, do you, EMBREE? Well, we just discussed, wait a sec, there were no body bags seen. You would definitely see 4 body bags, you would think, coming out of the house, right, folks? On November 12th and November 13th, 2022, late hours or by the early morning hours, right? They would have removed body bags. You didn't hear any police sirens. You didn't hear any ambulances during the 911 call. Many people have brought that up, right? And no leaked, again, no authenticated leaked raw crime scene photos of the crime scene, the victims. No cell phone camera, right? No security camera footage either of the crime scene. And we would have got this, my friends. You know that mainstream media, as I say in my videos, in almost every high-profile case, and I would say it in front of Pavarotti EMBREE, and I'm telling him now, he knows what I've been saying, that your mainstream media is almost always going to get leaked raw crime scene footage and or autopsy photos. But we didn't see any of this with the Idaho 4, everyone. I think that clearly shows you it's because a crime didn't take place, my friends. That's right. Doesn't mean that I don't disagree with Pav. There probably was a hit put on one or more of the girls, okay? Very, very likely. Their lives were in danger. There were a lot of drug running. There was a confidential informant probably living in the house. Probably they were compromised. And so the U.S. Marshals, what's the next step, everybody? Do you think the U.S. Marshals were just sleeping on November 12th and November 13th? Bye-bye, and they're not. We know they were surveilling, canvassing all over the area, the house, my friends. Even Steve G, who I normally don't trust. Apparently, EMBREE believes everything Steve G tells you. Steve G's a Fed, in my opinion. Certainly working with the Feds, in my opinion. Steve G that never cries in his interviews. His wife doesn't cry, right? They're just told what to say by the FBI, aren't they, everyone? That's what I've concluded. I think it's clear as day, and they're bad actors, in my opinion. Same with Olivia Gonzalez. But your Pav wants to make you think that Steve G is the real truth, man. Give me a break. He knows his daughter's alive, in my opinion. Steve G does. And I think deep down inside, Pavarotti EMBREE, he knows the students are alive, my friends. But you're never going to hear that on his channel, are you? Right? You've never heard it yet, and you probably never will. Because that destroys his whole channel and his whole narrative, everybody. All of you that support Pav, just know this, that if he comes out and he interviews even somebody like myself with an opposite viewpoint, connecting the dots on this extraction removal operation, then Pavarotti is going to have to end his channel. His whole narrative gets destroyed. He no longer brings any money from his members. I mean, I think this is likely, right, everyone? So EMBREE does not have the courage, apparently, to interview somebody like me. He responded to me, but this clown didn't even, he didn't even, what do you call it? He didn't even say my channel name properly. He just described me as this ESTEY crazy guy. What a clown. Anyway, but I don't hate EMBREE. No, I still have a cold beer with him. He's probably a nice guy. But is he a misinformation, disinformation age on the Idaho 4, my friends? I think that's a fair question to ask. You know, I really do. Because I just showed you, everyone. He's not telling you the truth, in my opinion. He won't even bring up as a possibility theory of the extraction removal staged operation, right? Instead, he's trying to describe this other cover-up, that it could be police involved, or I think as he said, or, you know, other people involved in the murders. But he doesn't tell you the real truth, my friends. There was no crime. There's no concrete evidence to even show those students were killed. And another thing, my friends, Pavarotti, he will never tell you that all these reports that he goes by and the so-called evidence from law enforcement, right, and the feds, why should we trust that, right? There's still not leaked crime scene photos of the victims, still no body bags ever seen. Why would you trust the feds, the CIA, FBI in this case, even with so-called evidence? You can't, right, folks? But EMBREE's not telling you that. He's telling you the opposite, isn't he? To follow the reports, the evidence. Same with the coroner. Jay EMBREE's not going to tell you. You can't trust Kathleen Mabbitt and any of her statements. We still never saw any authenticated autopsy photos, right? She's paid to play in this as well, my friends. Part of the cover-up, in my opinion. I'm sure a lot of you would agree, wouldn't you? I'm just going to look for comments here, folks. I don't know how to bring them up. Oh, here's one. Let me just put the phone close to me so I can see. And by the way, my friends, if you enjoy my videos, and even if you support, if you believe everything Jay EMBREE Pavarotti tells you, that's okay. I'm not trying to get you to change your mind. I'm not trying to get you to unsubscribe to the big Jay EMBREE Pavarotti. You know, that's okay. Just understand, though, what I'm saying, folks. You should still ask this guy some hard questions. Even in the chat, man, in my opinion. Say to this guy, interview ESTEY'S crime maze. Or at the very least, say to this Jay EMBREE guy, Jay EMBREE, why haven't you discussed the possibility, and I think it's very likely, but even saying the possibility that the students are alive? Because again, where's any verification of those bodies being removed that night? There's nothing, my friends. Again, no leaked autopsy photos. See, these are the questions that Jay EMBREE doesn't want you to ask him, my friends. He doesn't, because he would have brought it up otherwise if he wasn't afraid, in my opinion. Lord Jesus was great and graceful one. You are a nice preacher. Oh, thank you. An amazing and peace-loving person you are. Wish you every great success in life. Good luck. That is from Tarwat. I think Tarjwat. Thank you. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Here's Benjamin Sembler, all the way from Brazil. Thank you for being here. I hope you subscribe. I hope you might share my lives as well. I want to get more people viewing these videos. Of course, more subscribers. By the way, my friends, even those of you that support Jay EMBREE, and some of you who don't, whatever, I need to get to 2,500 subs. You know why? Because it's on my channel, folks. You can check out one of our videos. Outcast 420 did a funny baby video with me challenging Jay EMBREE. That's right. He has me as a baby face with cool editing, and he's got Jay EMBREE as a baby. And literally, I'm asking the hard questions of Pavarotti and challenging him to a boxing match and an interview. So a lot of the YouTube community now, they know that I'm putting Pav on the spot. I'm challenging him, A, to a boxing match to raise money for charity. And more importantly, I have sent sincere desire and request to have Jay EMBREE interview me. Just get me on your channel, Pav. Let's bounce ideas, two masculine dudes going at it respectfully on bringing real truth and transparency to the Idaho 4. See, if Pav is the real deal, he would have me on for that debate, my friends. But in my opinion, he hasn't shown to be the real deal, folks, because he refuses to be asked any hard questions from any other YouTube creator, especially somebody like me. And I got a lot of people hopping on board, and even some of my guests on Devil's Advocate show, we're talking about that extraction removal operation and why it's a viable theory to some of my guests over at Devil's Advocates. Check out Lee's channel, my friends, DA at Devil's Advocates. We go, he does lives every 9 p.m. Through the week, Mondays he does a one-on-one interview with Birdie. It's the best true crime channel out there, my friends, and I'm the second best. Half joking. But, so there you go. The Curry Boy says, he discussed you are bald, dingo. He discussed you are bold, dingo. I'm bold, yes, bold, and I am bald too, bold. Yes, he did discuss me, but he didn't even say my channel name correctly, did he? No, he totally butchered my... See, my friends, Pavarotti, he showed a real lack of intellectual integrity and honesty by not even saying my actual channel name, ESTEY'S Crime Maze. He knew if he said my channel's name, I probably would have had 15, 20,000 subs potentially within a month or so, or at least 5 to 10,000 more, probably almost overnight, right? A lot of his followers would be hopping over to my channel. He knew this. And I believe his handlers knew this. If Jay EMBREE's working for somebody, are you Jay EMBREE? Are you working for somebody or an intelligence organization? See, these are the questions I also might ask Jay EMBREE in an interview, folks, and he doesn't want those questions asked. Believe me. But that's too damn bad because I'm going to put him on the spot. Jay EMBREE needs to be called out respectfully but firmly, in my opinion. 115576 says, what's up, Esty? 11, hello, my friend. You know what's up, dude. I'm trying to get even the people that religiously follow. There's so many rabid followers of this Pavarotti Jay EMBREE, and that's okay. You want to be a rabid follower, but just know the truth. Get out of your brainwash and allow this Pavarotti to be asked some hard questions by somebody like me. Put it on the chat page, you followers, you rabid followers of Jay EMBREE. Say, this ESTEY'S Crime Maze, he wants to interview Pav. He wants to be interviewed on your channel. Why don't you let him? And you guys can tell Pav, come on, destroy this ESTEY'S Crime Maze. He doesn't know what he's talking about, right? But Pav knows what I'm talking about. And a lot of his subscribers, they also know what I'm talking about. Anybody who's listened to my videos, because I've tried to connect the dots, and I have, my friends, okay? Not that I'm perfect, but 115576. What Pav says is the gospel. What do you mean Dylan and Bethany tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Yeah, exactly. One has a problem with Pav too, where Pav is just saying, you know, we should trust Dylan and Bethany now, what they're saying. I mean, come on, Pav, that's ridiculous. Clearly Bethany and Dylan, in our opinions, they're being told what to say, most likely, right? They're lying by a lot of this case. 115576 says the biggest thing about some kind of extraction is the 911 delayed call. Something happened here. Thank you, 11. Couldn't agree with you more. Did you hear that, folks? The delayed 911 call. And yeah, 8-hour delay of a 911. What Pav, though, said, 11? I think you know, right? He said, he told his audience that he thinks that the Aryan Knights and the Aryan family intimidated Dylan and Bethany not to call 911 for 8 hours. I mean, I've heard some ridiculous things and theories in this case, but that is almost at the top. You really think Aryan Knight, Aryan family members are just going to, they're going to leave Dylan and Bethany alive after they've done a quadruple unaliving murders? And so they're just going to intimidate Dylan and Bethany not to call 911. They're going to trust those two to do the right thing. Are you kidding me? Is that how Aryan Knight gangbangers work, or cartel members? Are they going to leave two roommates in the same house alive after you've done a quadruple murder? Does that make any sense? I think you guys can answer that, right? So again, these are the conversations I would love to see Pavarotti answer, right? Let's have some dialogue. Pavarotti, let's bounce these ideas off one another. The audience can make up their mind who's right and who's wrong, right? And where, if anything, do I agree with Pav? You know, I used to follow this guy. I used to think he was the real deal. I bought into a lot of you, like all of you rabid supporters that rabidly support Jay EMBREE. I used to think, wow, he's telling the truth. I think he's making sense. But then, when you take a step back, folks, and you realize, well, wait a second. There couldn't have been any atrocity because there's no evidence to support an atrocity took place. It's all staged, folks. The show hearings, that was all staged, right? Again, no body bags, no verification, the body's being removed, no leaked raw crime scene footage of the victims. Are you kidding me? And we know neighbors were around. You don't think neighbors would have taken pictures of at least the blood, let alone those beautiful, innocent students, if they were really killed? Of course they would have, folks, right? But there's been nothing, right? And I could go on and on and on about the evidence that shows that whole thing was staged. The whole thing. right? But Jay Embry, Pavarotti doesn't go there, my friends. Why? Why won't he tell you the truth of that? Why is he instead trying to convince you, seemingly, that an atrocity took place? Oh, an atrocity, atrocity, atrocity. And this guy, this is why I get so wound up. This guy believes Steve G. And remember, Steve G said his daughter's nose was busted. I mean, he added that in there eventually on his daughter's injuries. It's so crazy. And then Pavarotti says he wants to convince you, seemingly saying that he thinks that one of the assailants busted Kaylee's nose with the butt end of the gun. Are you kidding me? Do you guys really believe that? Please take a deep breath. Even if you rabidly follow Pavarotti and support this guy, take a step back. Use some reason, logic, common sense. Get away from and realize this is a very highly emotionally charged narrative. And some creators, I believe, are working for somebody trying to do this to convince you. Why is Pavarotti, with no evidence to support it, why is he trying to convince you, seemingly, that Kaylee's nose was busted by a gun from one of the assailants? Do you really believe that? And again, if the students were if they were really killed, right, in a quadruple homicide, why didn't we see even one student with an open public casket ceremony, right? Not one student had an actual open public casket ceremony. My understanding is Ethan Chapman's family, they're the only ones that had a funeral service, right? But it was a private funeral service. Certainly wasn't open to the open casket to the public. And the reason I bring it up, everybody, and again, Jay Embry has never told you any of this. It's his goddamn shame. And he's doing this on purpose, I believe. But when you have an extraction removal operation, when the feds, and by the way, I've talked about this many times in my videos, one knows this, legally the feds can stage a violent event if a confidential informant's been compromised. Did you know that, everyone? Let me repeat this. Under USC Code 31, WITSEC, the government in the United States can actually fake deaths. They can stage a violent event if a confidential informant's been compromised. Jay Embry Pavarotti will never tell you this, my friends, because as soon as he does, he knows his narrative, I believe, is destroyed. People will start to ask themselves, well, wait a second. Is people like Estes, Crime Maze, and others, are they correct that maybe a crime, an atrocity didn't take place? Even though Jay Embry's told us thousands of times that an atrocity took place, wait a sec. Is Estes Crime Maze onto something? Is he connecting a lot of the dots? Again, no leaked raw crime scene photos of the victims, no cell phone camera, security camera showing you the blood or the victims, no neighbor, taking pictures, no sirens of ambulances coming in the morning or late hours. If you had a quadruple on murders, you'd really have ambulances coming in, right, folks? But again, the feds, even though they staged a lot of this, they couldn't do everything. They didn't do everything correct. They couldn't have. They didn't have the time, folks, okay? And to the credit of the U.S. Marshals, they got those students out of there, I believe, and protected. Now they're out of the United States, and they're protecting the WITSEC program. I truly believe that, everyone. And I think the circumstantial evidence is overwhelming that really supports that when you really look at this case and dig in, my friends. And it's a goddamn shame that Pavarotti, because he refuses to do interviews, and I believe there's a reason he refuses to do interviews, folks. We got to ask the hard questions. Because he refuses to do interviews, you're never going to hear any of this from PAV, my friends. He never will bring up the extraction removal operation as a viable or possible theory. Isn't that a goddamn shame? I think it is. Oh, somebody says, Penny says, oh, stop bashing the purple robe. It's a good color. Thank you, Penny. Who the hell bashed my purple robe? Who had the nerve to bash my purple robe? Somebody says, Bethune says, PAV, PAV, PAV. Okay. Where is, why, if you're such a huge follower of PAV, and that's fine, why hasn't PAV done interviews? Why hasn't PAV brought up the extraction removal operation? Why hasn't PAV told you that it makes absolutely no sense, reason, logic, common sense, if you're Aryan family gang bangers like Jay EMBREE wants you to believe that did this atrocity, okay? Or you could say even cartel members, but apparently Jay EMBREE's focused on Aryan Knights, Aryan family. If they're going to do a quadruple killing, murder, are they really going to leave 2 roommates alive to be able to testify? Are you kidding me? Right? And then again, Jay EMBREE's telling you he thinks they intimidated Dylan Bethany not to call 911 for 8 hours. Does that make sense? You know what makes more sense, in my opinion, everyone? That the U.S. Marshals debriefed Dylan and Bethany, most likely, and told them, do not call 911 for 8 hours. We're doing extraction removal. We're getting the students out of here. You can call 911 at such and such a time, 8 hours later. That's what makes more sense, everyone. Doesn't it? Think about that. But Jay EMBREE's never going to tell you that, folks. And we got to keep going after people like PAV, in my opinion, everyone, because I think he's doing a disservice at times in this case. I really believe that, everyone. I've just outlined it to you. And Jay EMBREE, he can prove me wrong and the world by just getting somebody like me. I don't even have 1,000 subscribers yet, but we're on our way. I haven't done even 100 videos, not even close, I don't think. I certainly haven't done hundreds like Jay EMBREE. I think I'm probably about 76, 77 videos or so. So naturally, I don't have tons of subs yet. But Jay EMBREE knows if he interviews me, I'm going to have a whole lot more subscribers. But this guy he put a condition, my friends. He put several conditions for me to have any chance to interview him. He basically brushed off any interview, really, if you listen to his nonsense. But I have to get 2,500 subs to have a chance to have the boxing match with him. And then he claims that if I win the boxing match, I have to win, which I will, I'm confident, once I could start training, get this injury healed. But if I win the boxing match, then I have an opportunity to interview him. You see, isn't that selling out? And then he doesn't even say my channel's name when he's addressing me. It's ridiculous. Let's see here. We got another comment. Misinformation says, lurking but totally agree. It's a fact that he won't consider any other options. And how he says, I'm right, without acknowledging, he's just conjecturing about the evidence. Total fed. Wow. Love that comment, Misinformation, because I think you're right on. I'm going to screenshot that right now. Yes. Appreciate that. You might want to send that to some subscribers of, if you feel like it, of this Jay EMBREE character. What a character he is. I got to give him credit where credit's due. Pavarotti, he is quite the entertainer. You know, some people even teach their own, right? Some people view him more as just for entertainment channel than really for the truth, you know. We got to ask the hard questions of this PAV, everyone. Is it possible that a misinformation, disinformation, that they're out there on the IDO4, some of them even building up a huge channel? Again, I'm not going to say for sure that PAV is a misinformation, disinformation agent. I'll let you guys and gals make up your minds. Is it possible? What's he doing? Trying to convince you seemingly that an atrocity happened. When years later, again, there's been no leaked raw crime scene photos to show you that a crime took place. There was no open public casket ceremony. Right? No cell phone cameras, no neighbors taking pictures of the blood or the victims, nothing authenticated. So what the hell's going on? Right? The biggest lie in this case is that an atrocity took place. There was no atrocity. There was no tragedy. This is the good news, isn't it, folks? Again, all my opinions, but the facts back it up. Misinformation 1 says, I thought he's a fed for a while. And then I hope you can get on Birdie's show soon. He's a good one, just from what I can see. He's changed how he's getting guests on. He was demonetized or disgraced with the email, and he's changed it. Yes, or he was disorganized with the emails. Exactly. Misinformation 1. Can you tell all your friends, including Birdie, what you just said? Can you tell Birdie that ESTEY'S Crime Maze has said that I reached out to Birdie several times. And Birdie, again, this guy's got a huge platform. He's done some really good work. He's got a good branding. I mean, he makes fun of his own channel's name, Birdie. He's got a self-deprecating humor. I mean, he says, who the hell would name their channel Birdie? But he did, right? But no, seriously. So misinformation one, please tell Birdie that I've got Birdie's emails. Do I need to show Birdie's emails to the public? That this guy backed out of it. He played me, man, it seems. He backed out of an interview not once, not twice, I think 3 times. I've got his emails. What the hell's going on? And I like Birdie. Birdie, if you listen to this live, listen to Misinformation One, dude, I got your emails. Do I have to show the public? Let's just do this interview, dude. You and I can knock it out of the park. You know it and I know it. And other people know it, man. Come on, Birdie. What are you afraid of, dude? You shouldn't be afraid of anything. And just because I go after Pavarotti, exposing this EMBREE Pavarotti, somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to show some courage and balls, in my opinion, and tell the truth on Pavarotti. Birdie won't do it. I mean, again, I'm asking the hard question. Why isn't EMBREE doing interviews? Shouldn't he be doing interviews? I think so. You put out all this information, and yet you're not discussing, I believe, the most viable theory of them all, that all 4 students are protected most likely in the WITSEP program. And it was a staged crime scene. Sure, the U.S. Marshals rescued these students, folks. And Birdie was the first one to put you on, he's one of the very few people that put out that as a real possible theory, folks. Yeah. And I've ran with it because it's true, in my opinion. So, and again, I like Birdie. I hope Birdie will show the courage eventually soon to interview me, and follow through, Birdie, what you promised, dude. You promised we could do an interview together. So let's do it. You know, I'm a regular guest on your buddy's show, DA's show, with other guests on his amazing platform. So why don't you at least have me for a one-on-one interview too, Birdie, okay? Let's do this, man. 11 says, we can't hear you. Really? Cannot hear. Are you sure of me? Let's see here. Cannot hear you now. Wait a sec. Sounds fuzzy. A mic is covered. Just a sec, folks. Can you hear me now? I hope so. Let's see here. Someone, T. Kuhn says, if PAV said 2,500 subs required, then he's full of shit. Yeah. Good comment, T. Kuhn. In my opinion. Yes. Now we can hear 1-1. Yes. Somebody says, Pav mic working? No, Pavarotti's not here. This is ESTEY'S crime maze. Wesley won. See, I think Wesley's entertaining. He or she would like to see me interviewed from Pavarotti, the two of us. He goes, is this a fact though? I do love an intelligent conversation. Exactly. People brag about how intelligent EMBREE and PAV is, particularly subscribers, and that's fine. If Pavarotti's so intelligent, then let's see him how he conducts a real interview. Not a half-ass interview like he did with A.R. Hayes and Convex Thoughts. I like A.R., but I don't think EMBREE did a very good job. A.R. Hayes did fine, I think. But we're talking real interviews here, folks. Okay? That's the only interview that EMBREE ever did, folks. Other than that, he doesn't do any interviews. And that there needs to be questions asked, shouldn't we, folks? You know, aren't those huge red flags when a guy like EMBREE isn't doing interviews, particularly when he doesn't have the courage to interview people that may have an opposite viewpoint on the IDO4? Let's talk it out. T. Kuhn says, Birdie did it, or Birdie do it. Exactly. T. Kuhn, can you also reach out to Birdie? For heaven's sakes, people, please tell Birdie, ESTEY'S Crime Maze talks a lot about you in his videos. He's reached out to you. He's telling us that he's got your emails, Birdie, where you promised that we could do an interview, and you bailed on me 2 or 3 times. And I can understand. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, Birdie. Maybe you had some reservations at the time. But you played me, dude. It's time to fall through on the interview now. Show me you're a man of intellectual integrity and honesty, Birdie. Okay, buddy? And I like Birdie, man. And this is why I challenge a guy like Birdie. Because I enjoy his show. I don't think he's a misinformation, disinformation agent like some people very well may be on the Idaho 4 out there. But you see, if Birdie's the real deal, and I certainly hope he is, then he better damn well, in my opinion, interview somebody like me, especially after he said he would, again, twice. And he knows, again, I think we could do a great interview. I've talked to him. I told him how I would conduct myself in an interview with him. So Birdie, dude, you shouldn't have any more reservations about how I'll conduct myself, okay? And you should give me credit for having the balls, the courage to expose this Pavarotti EMBREE, what he's doing on the Idaho 4. And everybody can have their own opinions, okay? And I won't talk about EMBREE in our interview, Birdie. If you don't want me to talk about him, that's fine. That's not what we'll do our interview about. T-Coon says, let's see here. T-Coon says, a while back because you were too close to the mic. Oh, okay, sorry. Talking about my information. Touchalua 892 says, just to be upfront, I'm missing a toe, but I still got the other. Okay. Glad you got the other toe. Free Tech says, what in your opinion is the difference between misinformation, disinformation, or are they pretty much the same? Excellent question. I'm not going to get into that in a big way on this live. We'll do it on future lives, but just know that I believe when it comes to misinformation and disinformation, and you guys can look this up yourselves, but a lot of times when somebody puts out misinformation, disinformation, they're going to put out a very highly emotionally charged narrative to try to trigger you, to trigger your emotions. You know, in this case, like say a true crime case, folks, okay? And they're going to give some truths often, but they're going to mix it up with lies, with deception, with misinformation to misdirect you folks into the real truth, okay? The most powerful truth, I believe, of this case at times. We got to ask ourselves, are some creators misinformation, disinformation agents? Again, I'm not going to say EMBREE absolutely is, but I got questions for this guy. Isn't it reasonable to have questions and want to do an interview to be on EMBREE's massive platform so we could talk about the Idaho 4, right? He knows I'm challenging him. He's had to respond to me, folks, and he did because he knows I'm putting pressure on him. I'm one of the few YouTubers that has the balls and the courage to go after this guy and expose him and ask some hard questions. Is he the real deal? Is he a misinformation, disinformation, or is he not? Is he really correct that an atrocity took place at the Idaho 4? Or is the biggest cover-up and the biggest lie that, wait a sec, there was no atrocity? The biggest lie is that we were told that an atrocity took place. These stabbings. Bullshit. In my opinion, bullshit. Outcast 420 says, that robe is fire. Thank you, Outcast 420, dude. Speaking of which, if you want to do an interview tonight, I don't know if it works for you, Outcast. I could, as long as my phone's charged, we could do it, say, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock? I got to get dinner in me soon. We could shoot for 9 o'clock, dude. Eastern, that is, okay? Outcast Podcast 420. He come on the Outcast Podcast tonight. Who does, me or Pav? Hopefully you mean me. Pavarotti won't come on your show. Because Pav refused to do interviews. 10 p.m., see you there. Is that 9 p.m. Eastern my time? I hope so, buddy. Bethune says, what if Pav does interview on a neutral platform, Outcast Podcast Live? Well, if Pavarotti would ever come on the Outcast show, I would hope that the Outcast might get me on in the interview, three-way. At the very least, Outcast needs to ask Pavarotti, in my opinion, about the extraction removal operation, and that Estes Crimes keeps bringing this up. And then he can say to Pavarotti, hey, Pav, did you see the baby video I did with Estes Crimes and you on it? It's hilarious. You guys got to check that out, man. This Pav needs to be called out, in my opinion. Fear tech. One is purposeful. The other is just getting facts wrong. Exactly. I don't think I'm getting facts wrong. It took me a long time to really connect a lot of the dots with this theory. I got a lot of help from other researchers, folks. A lot of people are looking at the Witsick angle, including Birdie, that these students could very well be in a Witsick program protected, that they're alive, baby. You can't trust the parents. None of them have normal, even anything close to so-called normal grieving. I hate to use that word normal, but I mean, they don't even cry in their interviews. Are you kidding me? And Ethan Chapman's family, they're not even angry. They said they're not even angry at the assailant. And apparently they believe Brian Kohlberger did it. And Steve G and Christy G, they think of all assailants that Brian Kohlberger did it. And so you don't think Christy G and Steve G, you don't think they're working for the feds? Jay EMBREE, I don't think he's ever told you that Steve G's working for the feds. He just talked about, Steve G so-called hiring an investigator, right? Going after a confidential informant, all this stuff. Annie Rules 69 says, hey, from Vegas. Hi, Annie. Thank you very much. T. Coon says, Annie Ruler. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Annie Ruler 69, is PAV paid by college to keep it from frats? The IMO just, I would say Annie Rule 69, we don't have to focus on the frats either. There was no crime. The real truth of the Idaho 4, and I'm trying to get it out, folks, is the U.S. Marshals rescued those students most likely, okay? And again, they're out of the country most likely. They are protected under the Federal Witness Security Program. That's the Witness Protection Program of the United States, and it's called WITSEC, baby, W-I-T-E-C, okay? And yes, see, Pavarotti, he did a video on the WITSEC, but it only talked in part about the WITSEC program. It didn't talk about the part where USC Code 31 WITSEC, hello, the feds can actually stage a crime scene event, my friends. Theoretically, like the Idaho 4, they can actually fake one or more deaths of people, folks. These are real laws in place. Pavarotti won't tell you that. I mean, he should be, shouldn't he? Bethune ground staff. Yeah, PAV with ESTEY'S. Annie Ruler 69. PAV is my superhero. Tired of being the alpha in my relationships. I didn't quite understand that last sentence, but PAV is my superhero. What about me being your superhero, Annie Ruler 69? I'm an alpha, baby. T. Coon says, Outcast, you need to stop being a vampire. Yeah, right on. Annie Ruler 69 says, I go with the WITSEC theory. KG has to be FBI file. Why snitching? Question mark. Interesting. I agree with you, Annie Ruler 69. Going with the WITSEC theory, baby. That's the real truth of this case. And that's what the evidence points towards. The evidence doesn't point towards the students being stabbed to death, folks. Okay? And by the U.S. Marshals, elements of the feds, by faking these deaths, this quadruple homicide, this high-profile so-called tragedy, right? They were able to actually accomplish what they needed to do. They continued their covert drug investigations. They tried to convince some people that these students, were killed and Bethany and Dylan were left alive. And then they were able to continue, again, those covert drug investigations. And eventually we saw what happened. They did major drug busts in places like Washington State and other places, right, folks? A few months later. So it worked for them, my friends. It worked. But we don't have to be hoodwinked, folks. And in my opinions, we don't have to be hoodwinked by Jay EMBREE Pavarotti, okay? If that's, in fact, what he's hired to do. And I have questions, and I would ask him in an interview, prove me wrong. Annie Ruler 69, I would go with the WITSEC theory. KG had an FBI file. Yeah. Why? Snitching? That's a great question. I got a lot of questions about Steve G too. I don't trust him personally. Misinformation one. True, Annie. That would be my guess if true. Yeah, Steve G. He's almost like a snake. This guy at times, in my opinion, the way he acts, very very suspect. Annie Ruler 69 at Esty. I am taking applications. Or does that mean for an interview, Annie Ruler 69? Is that what you mean? I'd be interested in an interview. Anybody wants to interview me, let's do it. Bethune ground stuff. PAV has shown various firearms that could be used. There was no firearms used in an actual atrocity at 1122 King Road, in my opinion. There will never be any concrete evidence that guns were used and the students were killed. It's all horseshit, my friends. It's all staged. It's all nonsense. And Pavarotti, in my opinion, Pavarotti needs to stop saying that an atrocity took place. He knows it didn't take place, in my opinion, folks. And that's what I'd like to do in an interview. One of the many reasons why I want to be interviewed by this guy. If he'd only show some courage and balls. Misinformation one. If PAV is right about any of the stuff going on, IMO, it is the parallel investigator. So if somehow a CI got messed up with that case, it would make the being Witzik a lot more plausible. Exactly. So misinformation one, Jay Embree's narrative is that, somehow Aryan family, Aryan Knights killed all 4 students and had the desire to mutilate, stab. These gangbangers, according to Jay Embry, they were so evil. They were so, I don't know if they were delusional on drugs, but Jay Embry thinks they're so evil they mutilated all or several of the students' faces, like 50 stab wounds and this and that. Are you kidding me? Do you really believe that? Folks, do you really believe this? I mean, come on. Let's use reason, logic, common sense, folks. Again, no leaked, I got to keep repeating, no leaked raw crime scene photos of the victims, no cell phone cameras of the blood or victims, no security camera, no continuity footage, what's the other word I'm using? No continuity footage, something or other. Anyway, folks, no leaked autopsy photos even? I mean, come on. We know we would have got that. In almost every high-profile case, you're going to have that, folks. Not in this case, though. And you know why. Because it didn't happen, in my opinion. I really don't think it happened. Bianca says at Levin, me honey. Liv/Levin says, or he will call you a moron. Laugh out loud. Yeah, Annie Ruler 69 says, SG is a family of actors, IMO. I totally agree with you. I'm going to screenshot that. Family of actors. Yes, I think Olivia Gonzalez, even though she prepared, for that final hearing, at least 2 years she probably prepared for it, she certainly sounded like an highly emotionally charged actress, didn't she, folks? Do you really believe what Olivia Gonzalez, half the things that she was saying? Do you really believe that she actually thinks Brian Koberger did the crimes, stabbings, and, is this lone quadruple killer? It's all horseshit, my friends. It's all theater. It's all acting, isn't it? I sure as hell, in my opinion, that Olivia Gonzalez, she knows the real truth. Those students are alive. She knows her sister's alive, folks. And let's tell the truth. Can we not tell the truth, folks? Because, again, my opinions, but the facts back it up. Because Steve G has collected over $100,000 from the naive public, hasn't he? Trying to convince you that his daughter was killed. Bullshit. And this money's going to go, a lot of it will go to his daughter's new lifestyle, folks. So let's not be hoodwinked and lied to, in my opinion. T. Kuhn, hit the thumbs up because we need the argument to move forward. Thank you, T. Kuhn. Thanks for that reminder. Yes, please, everybody. If you enjoy my videos, I hope you'll hit that thumbs up. And even some of you that, for some reason, might disagree with my extraction removal operation theory, I'm not sure how you could, but if you do, that's okay. Even DA sometimes disagrees with me, and that's okay. Even if you disagree with me, And even if you support, if you're fully in on the belief system of Jay EMBREE, that's okay. But still, please support my channel, would you? So we can get 2,500 subs, so I can put more pressure on Pavarotti to finally show some balls and courage and just have me on his platform for an interview. Half hour, an hour, at least interview. Let's do it. I'm the only YouTuber challenging this Pavarotti, a YouTube creator that I know of. Let's get more people challenging this Pavarotti to the real truth, not pulling the wool over our eyes like I think he is at times. There was no atrocity. He knows there's no atrocity, in my opinion. Wesley says, I'm just English guy with an opinion. Shoot me down, but you think us people bury their heads? Good or bad? Interesting. Okay, thank you for that. Well, thank you so much for being here, everyone. Wesley says, I do apologize for my grammar. We do love you guys. Thank you, Wesley, over there, it looks like in the UK. T-Kun says, if you disagree, please state your reasons. Exactly. Here's another example, and I would say it in an interview with Pavarotti and other people in an interview. Whatever YouTube creators want to interview me. If you disagree with the extraction removal operation, if you don't think those U.S. Marshals most likely rescue those 4 students and that the rest is just lies from the CIA, FBI, then show me why. Why am I wrong? Because I'm willing to keep an open mind. Again, at first I believed Jay EMBREE in the first half a year that, maybe Aryan Family, Aryan Knights did take out a hit successfully somehow, right? But again, everyone, even the red on the foundation of the house, once you start connecting the dots, you realize that couldn't be blood from the victims, in my opinion. How could it be? It was left on the foundation of the house day after day after day, right? Forensic investigators, I'm sure if they're being honest with you, they would tell you, and or forensic scientists and teams, they would tell you, if you had really had blood from any victims on a foundation of a house, a crime scene, that would have to be washed up within a couple days probably, wouldn't it, folks? Because it's a health hazard. And there'd be other reasons to wash it up. Come on. It wasn't done in the Idaho 4 case though, was it, folks? It was left there for probably weeks on the foundation of the house. And you know why, my friends? Because I'm convinced, and I've been convinced for a while now, the feds, they had to put one thing in front of your eyes to make you think that all 4 students were stabbed to death. That's why they put probably pig's blood or paint. It wasn't blood from Xana or Ethan or Kaylee or Maddie. But again, Jay EMBREE will never tell you this. He'll never give you, at least say that's his opinion on that. No. He thinks it's probably blood. And I would ask him in the interview, hey, Pavarotti, do you really think that's real blood from victims on the foundation of the house? Oh, you do you? You think it's real? Well, maybe you can answer me this, Pavarotti, as I've said in my videos. Why didn't forensic teams, do you think, why didn't they clean that up? It would have been a health hazard. They would have washed that up within days. Why didn't they? See, again, my friends, Jay EMBREE, he'll be running away, man. This guy is so scared of ESTEY'S crime case. He doesn't want those questions asked in an interview. Look like it, folks. Because again, he put ridiculous conditions when I challenged him to an interview. Okay? And again, doesn't mean I hate Jay EMBREE, Pavarotti. I don't. I'm just frustrated with him in some ways, folks. Because, again, I don't think he's telling you the real truth in some respects of this case. That's my opinions, folks. And he can prove me wrong. Just get me in an interview. Let's see if his audience and my audience, let's see if they agree more with what Jay EMBREE's put out as a narrative, that the atrocity took place, right? And that the students were stabbed and mutilated. And Kaylee Gonzalez, he thinks, again, got her nose bashed in by an assailant with his gun. Are you kidding me? Let's see if the audience, after they're done listening to what I have to say in the interview, let's see if they still believe Jay EMBREE, Pavarotti. Or will most of my audience and Jay EMBREE's audience, will they start to believe ESTEY'S crime maze's theory and circumstantial evidence? Misinformation 1 says, the blood was probably just to shock everyone so they wouldn't question too much. Exactly. Like Charlie Kirk, she says. Exactly, Misinformation 1. And that's where I almost want to punch myself. That I let that red on the foundation of the house, I let it confuse me too. I thought, well, it must be what the CIA, FBI are telling us. I mean, even though, it didn't smell right, it didn't feel right. Wait, a quadruple murders where there's so much blood that it actually seeped on the foundation of the house? It's hard to actually take that in, right, everyone? But if you see it, you're more likely to, well, I guess I'll have to believe it, right? And I believed it for the first year or so. Not anymore, folks. And you don't either. You don't have to either. Yes, Liv Levon says, yeah, mainstream media shock value. Exactly. Great comments, folks. I'm going to screenshot Misinformation One's comment and the other comment that just came in from, let me see here. Liv Levon, your mainstream media shock value. And they don't know what happened. There you go. So guys and gals, when I first exposed Jay EMBREE and or just giving my opinions on this guy, I had so many people. Let me just get out of here on the laptop. One sec. I had so many people at times leaving me really nasty negative comments, totally defending this Jay EMBREE Pavarotti, and again, that he's their superhero. Because Pavarotti wants to come off, in my opinion, like he is a superhero, or that he's this alpha male, right? And yet he never shows us his eyes. He's supposed to be all about truth and transparency, but he feels the need to wear shades. In every single video, except one, only one video, apparently did he show his blue eyes. Come on, Jay EMBREE. If you're the real deal, in my opinion, you'd be showing your eyes, dude. Isn't that a Fed move, what you're doing, Jay EMBREE Pavarotti? Who are you working for? I'm just asking the questions here, dude. Or is this just your shtick? You're going to wear glasses in every video, right? Come on, dude. You could do better than that. I love giving this Pavarotti a hard time. But I just want to be interviewed. I'll be respectful, Pavarotti, Jay EMBREE. I will, dude. We can have fun. But I think you're afraid of the ramifications when the interview's over, and even during the interview with your chat page. Bethune ground staff, PAV, beanie, ESTEY, no beanie. Exactly. I got the round head. Maybe Jay EMBREE doesn't have the sexy round head, so he feels the need to wear the beanie. I don't know. I'm just saying. Who knows? But the beanie looks half decent on Jay EMBREE. I'll give him that. So that's what I had to say, my friends. I love challenging Jay EMBREE PAV. I like to challenge other YouTube creators as well. Again, so many YouTube creators, they seemingly just want to convince the public that an atrocity took place. But again, my friends, who has tried to convince us also that an atrocity took place? It was just CIA, FBI, right? And local law enforcement, but yet with no leaked raw crime scene photos, to no verification of the body bags even being moved out of the house. Again, no leaked raw crime scene photos to show us that the students were stabbed to death. No authenticated raw crime scene photos. That means no cell phone camera coverage as well, no security camera footage, nothing. No leaked autopsy photos, folks. We would have had all this long time ago if it was a real crime. Okay? That's a fact. That's just a fact, folks. Again, every high-profile case just about nowadays, you get leaked raw crime scene photos and or autopsy photos. That's a fact, right? Yeah, I like how DA, he somewhat sarcastically says, PAV, I guess, has solved the case, Misinformation One says, PAV has no problem calling out smaller channels, calling them morons, so he deserves all of this. If he can dish it, he can take it. Exactly, Misinformation One. I'm taking a screenshot. I love it. There you go. And by the way, again, Jay EMBREE, he did do, I always describe it as a half-ass interview with A.R. Hayes at Convicts Thoughts. And overall, I like A.R. Hayes. His channel's at Convicts Thoughts. I wish A.R. Hayes, would ask Jay EMBREE the hard questions too, and there's many he could have asked, and I hope A.R. Hayes will evolve his thinking on the Idaho 4, that He doesn't have to buy into any nonsense from PAV and other creators that are trying to seemingly convince you that the Aryan Knights and Aryan families were so evil that they mutilated faces of the students, stabbed them to death, left 2 roommates alive, had them delay a 911 call for over 8 hours. A.R. Hayes, if he ever listens to my live, he can know that I believe there's more evidence to show you again, it was an extraction removal operation, baby. The students are out of there. They're protected. They're probably on a beach protecting the WITSEC program. And if A.R. Hayes has any doubts, or anybody else, just listen to Christy G's own words too, folks. She literally blurted out, probably by an accident, that Maddie just bought a new house. And we know the word she was meaning, house. And then she cut herself off, which many people found very, very odd. Same with Bubbly Waters, who caught that clip and showed the public, right? Christy G cuts herself off, leaves the interview, and many people speculated she's probably calling her lawyer saying, look what I fucking just did. I just accidentally said Maddie just bought a new house, as in house. So there you go, my friends. You can't buy a new house, nor why would you say that if Maddie was really stabbed to death? It makes no sense, unless she's alive, in my opinion, folks. I think that was just another example of Christy G saying too much. Again, some of these parents, my friends, naturally, they sometimes say too much. And that's just one of many examples where they said too much, I believe. Misinformation 1 says, PAV has no problem. Oh, yeah, calling out smaller channels. Abdullah Rashid says, hello, sir. I need investment for my new venture. Would you be able to help me? No, I'm looking for support for my channel, for myself. Unfortunately, I can't. By the way, I normally don't ask, folks, but if anybody wants to support my channel, unfortunately, I don't have Patreon set up. I think in Canada, I don't even think we have a thing called Cash App. I'm sure there's probably other platforms where, ways of people to donate. But if you happen to want to donate, help me out, and help support my channel, I could use new equipment. I'd love to hire an editor, etc. Just shoot me an email. We can email each other, and hint, hint, maybe we could do an email money transfer on your end, if you didn't mind. I'm just saying. Nicely putting it out there as a request for any of you. Okay? Thank you, my friends. The most important thing is thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to my videos. Those of you that may have listened to more than one video. Those of you that are new to my channel tonight, I appreciate you being here. Or good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I love talking Idaho 4 and the Charlie Kirk case and other important true crime cases. Eventually, we'll cover more cases, folks, on ESTEY'S Crime Maze, okay? So that's my challenge to PAV. I'm still challenging this guy to a boxing match, but even more so, an interview, an actual interview. And when my injury gets healed and I can start finally hitting the punching bag and lifting my free weights, etc., I might put out a video to try to put the fear of God into this EMBREE Pavarotti. But I think I've already put a fear of God into him, particularly when it comes to an interview. Right, EMBREE? But EMBREE, you can prove me wrong, dude. Show courage, man up. Just man up, dude, and let's do an interview on your platform with all your amazing subscribers and followers, and rabid followers at that. Let's do an interview together. Simple. Do it, EMBREE. You don't do interviews, man. Why don't you do interviews? I think I know why. I'll let the audience make up their minds too. I'm not done with PAV yet. And hell, after we do an interview and or boxing match, but hopefully interview as well, or one or the other, at least an interview. I'm not going to give up on an interview. But then, Pavarotti, you and I can have a cold beer. We can laugh about all this, dude. Okay? All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care. It's ESTEY'S Crime Maze. Hope you subscribe. Hope you hit the thumbs up, hit the bell icon to be notified for future videos. Feel free to leave me a comment. Appreciate the engagement. It all helps with the algorithms, apparently. Ultimately, getting these videos and lives out to you guys and gals. Okay? Thanks for all your amazing comments and questions today. I'm sorry I couldn't get around to each and every one of you. Oh, here's another person that does interviews. The Chaz505 says, I do interviews, bro. Awesome. I'll try to screenshot that. Please reach out to me again on my videos so I can get alerted and I can write your name down and let's do an interview. I appreciate it. Yeah. Oh, they also said, Chav505 says, I interview and box. What are we going to talk about and then fight about? Well, we can fight about Pavarotti, or we could just talk about Idaho 4 and not bring up any other YouTube creators and try to discuss how about the extraction removal operation theory and discuss other theories if we want. Thank you, Penny, for being here. You're very welcome. She says, thanks, Jason. You're welcome. My pleasure. Chad 505, let's talk some more, dude. We can talk on Facebook and Messenger as well, or just here in other videos. Leave me comments. Keep following up, and let's do an interview. Try to do one, okay? Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it for being here. Have an awesome day, or evening, again, or morning, wherever you are. Bye, everyone. See ya.